Assalamu alaikum. I am Brother Patrick Muhammad with Engine of the Nation. This is our weekly segment where we talk about all things agriculture and we look at the fear, faith, and truth of farming. Today, it is extremely an honor to have the opportunity to interview my mentor. And I want to tell you a little bit about this young man that we're going to interview today. In the last 7 years, outside of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, there is no other person who has had as much influence on my day-to-day life than the person we're interviewing today, Wayne Swanson. Wayne Swanson is unlike any other. He is a godsend. And at a critical time in my life, listening to the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I desired to do what the minister said, but didn't know how in the world we could make it happen. And all of a sudden, like a magical movie, this man was dropped into my life. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, there is no other person on the planet right now that has had more influence on every day of the last 7 years of my life than Wayne Swanson. So good evening, brother. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm trying to figure out who you're talking about.
Yes. So this is Wayne Swanson of Swanson Family Farms. And thank you so much. It's an honor to have the blessing to get a chance to interview you on our show from NNV News, Engine of the Nation. So, Wayne, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and your background and your upbringing?
Sure. I'm Wayne and Trudy's oldest boy first. Charmaine's husband and Jakai's dad. I grew up in South Jersey. My mother's from Camden, New Jersey. My dad's from Glassboro, New Jersey. Big families. My mom is one of 13 or 14. My dad is one of 21, 18 of which were raised on the farm that he grew up on. I grew up in the suburbs, man. It was the city compared to where I'm at now, but it was the suburbs in New Jersey. And they wanted me to go to college. We were AME, so they wanted me to go to Morris Brown College or to Morehouse. And they sent me down here. I was doing great with my wife, and we were both in corporate. And one day my son came home with a cabbage plant, and I realized, I know what to do with a cabbage plant. And I started making a garden in my yard, which became what we call an edible landscape. Mm-hmm. And the rest is, as they say, is history. That went into doing gardens in the neighborhood, doing gardens in people's backyards, and then getting chickens, and then ripping out all of my landscaping and doing putting grapevines in and blueberry bushes, and instead of monkey grass, I was growing leeks and onions. Mm-hmm. And then from there, a buddy of mine that I went to college with came by one day and was like, man, you need a farm. And that night on his way home, he was like, hey, I just passed the farm for sale. And wow. That's it right there. And he said, you should go buy this place. And I was like, man, you tripping, bro. So I drove by. So this is part of my territory in my job. So I swung by, and it was an open house when I swung by. And the place had been on, this is late 2007. And the place had been on the market for a couple of years, I think. It was an older couple in their 80s that wanted to sell it. And I got out there, man, and, God just dumped it on me like a bucket of water. Like, this is what you got to have. He said, you need to have fruit here. And as I looked around, although it was overgrown, I could see everything in the position. I could hear my grandfather talking. Even though he's that generation, he didn't talk directly to children.
Right.
So, but I could hear them explaining why the chicken coop faced a certain way so that they can get the maximum sun. Why you put the cows in the woods like that picture so they can fertilize the trees, but also keep the competition down. And I saw it. So I called my wife and was like, yeah, I don't know what you need to do. Stick your finger in your throat, throw up, do something. You got to get out of work and come on down here and see this farm. And we bought it.
So let me ask a question just to make
Hmm.
sure I hear you properly. All this growing you're talking about it initially was in a subdivision.
Subdivision. Yes.
And
Mm.
then you went from, did you go subdivision, 4 years of college at an ag school studying ag, or did you go subdivision garden to this farm?
Subdivision Garden, YouTube University, get in your truck, drive, and go see people University to the farm.
Mm, mm. So
Yeah.
that uh, what kind of convincing had to happen to make that transition from, oh, he's doing something nice in the front yard, the backyard, the side, to like we're leave the comfort zone of our subdivision and go to
Whew,
little.
man,
I don't
it,
have.
it took so my wife is a mover. She is, if it ain't funny, she don't laugh. So I had to put a spreadsheet together. I had to come with a plan. And at some point, even in that, I had to put my fist down, like literally on the table. This is what we're doing. The numbers work. And numbers worked, and then we went broke. And then I built it back up. But yeah, we went broke though. But it took some convincing, heavy convincing.
And tell me about your two helpers there, those two wonderful people, man.
Yeah.
A little bit of.
So Charmaine is like, if you remember Green Acres,
Mm,
Charmaine is not wanting to get out there. She will. She she's hardcore in terms of the helpmate. But if she has her choice, she
mm,
ain't getting out there. She's
mm,
not. So so it took some convincing because first it was like, it was a little hobby, and we just had a bigger yard.
mm, mm,
And as the hobby starts to make money, she did the first spreadsheet actually. And she was like, "Oh," and this is before we knew what we had. We just brothers that had stakes. So we were giving them out to people, and people started calling us back.
mm,
And we did a spreadsheet. I'll never forget it. $5 a pound spreadsheet. And we were like, "Oh, this would make money," not knowing that we should have been charging 15,
mm.
16, 17, 20 in some cases. But yeah, it was a hard sell, man. A hard sell.
So, one thing I do know about this animal connection, this instinct. So, did you start off like with dogs or something, and then to these cows? What? Tell me about the.
So we're gonna go all the way back. So I've been breeding animals since I was 5 or 6 years old. I would bring little lizards home from Georgia when I came to visit. My mom's people was from Georgia. I bred and sold hamsters in the community. I bred lizards in the community. I always had a dog, and I always was interested in the breeding of the farm cats at my grandmother's house.
Mm,
So I always was like, okay, well, this is whose dad is this, and then by the time I was 12 or 13, I could tell you. We saw somebody was pregnant. I could be like, well, if she got pregnant by the major cat at that farm was Ice Cream. I said, if she got pregnant by Ice Cream, she's gonna have three tabbies, one that's black and white, one that's such and such, because Ice Cream's dad was black. I could do all that before I started reading Gregor Mendel. Always had a dog. Always had a dog. I don't ever remember not having a dog. And I was that kid who, it was the 80s, so there was a lot going on. I was that kid that there was a little fight or something, my dog would be there and I could be like, get him. So it's just one of the things it's my gift. And I kind of fell into my gift, and that is my comfort spot. And it just, the animals actually calm me down. And the animals, I know I told you this story. The animals are what told me to make the decision because I was stressing about it. And Maestro charged me one day.
mm.
And Maestro is my bull, 1,200-pound bull.
Tell them about Maestro, please.
Yeah. So Maestro Maestro is born on 4/4/14, I think. So that's why perfect measure. That's why we named him Maestro.
Mm,
Um, and he was raised, I didn't raise him like a puppy, but he was very familiar with us, but always just a little bit standoffish.
mm, Mm-hmm.
And he would tell you, he knew he ran the yard if I wasn't there. And for whatever reason, he decided to hate trucks. So I think he beat up your truck. He totaled somebody else's truck. But he was genetically a phenomenal specimen.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew early on, especially when we first met, I knew what I had. And I believe that was one of the things I told you. I said, look, man, if you do this with me, we're going to double your cattle because my bull can't miss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he was phenomenal. If it wasn't for OC and Maestro, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. So I got a bunch of Maestro babies running around, and that gene pool is what is leading us to the next phase of the business, where we're going to do some F1 crosses, and maybe another day we can talk about the crosses and how we talk about them and segregate the animals. So, but Maestro, without Maestro, there is no Swanson Family Farm.
Wow. Wow. And so before we get to the meat, I want to just talk about how we met and eventually getting to a purchase. So do you remember the phone call?
I do. It was a weird phone call because a minute before I talked to you, Department of Natural Resources called me and told me there was a cougar on my property. And, and you called right after that. And I was quick. I didn't have time,
Hmm?
but I was like, look, if you want to do this, come to my house on Thursday. I'm in Ohio. I think I was in Ohio for work. I was like, I'm in Ohio. I'll be home and I'm on the farm working. I said, so if you want to do it, come down. Let's see if you're serious or not. And you came through.
Yeah. And you know what was interesting about that? I came with brother Leroy, that first time, and I was amazed. I was hooked when I got out the truck, right? So we're walking, Wayne, 36 acres, a perfect rectangle, and we're just walking, and the animals are just kind of flanking us. And before we left, he basically said, if you want to do this, you got to come by here every weekend, and then we'll see if you're serious about it. So I literally get in the truck.
Oh, that's it.
I get in the truck and I'm like, oh, we doing this. And Leroy's like, you ain't asked enough questions. I was like, yes, I did. That's all we need to know. And so this was right before the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was coming to Tuskegee. Now, the minister ended up not coming, but Minister Ishmael came and taught the lecture. And so I go from your farm to Tuskegee, and I
Ah,
detail to where I had to kind of keep some people away from the main square. So we're riding through cow pastures for like 4 hours, right? And I'm wearing this brother out. The brother's name was Brother Frank from DC. I talked about you so much. He was Wayne, dude. And how no, I was like, I met him last week.
yeah.
And so we get to, you make the offer. And the part that's so amazing to me, Wayne, you make this offer. You say, I'll take you to my source, get the cows, right? We had your truck,
Mm-hmm.
your trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and your farm, right? And so there's a picture that we have of the purchase. And at this point, I think we've known each other maybe like, I'm gonna say 50 days just as a
Maybe.
as a number. And I'm like, who is this man that is taking these novices, using his vehicle, and taking us to purchase animals that we ultimately going to bring back to your property? And I tell people all the time, like, what you see me signing, that's us signing the paperwork from the purchase of the cows. That's not me signing an agreement with Wayne. Our agreement was a conversation and a handshake. And we're 7 years later. I don't want to tell how much money we made, but we've been comfortable. Like, what
Yeah.
was brothers?
Well, let me tell you. So, you know how when they say if you have a dream, you need to jump.
Mm-hmm,
So, what you presented to me was an opportunity
mm-hmm,
to try everything I dreamed about, to
mm-hmm,
mob graze a pasture genetically, to make sure that my cow could do everything I said he could do, that I thought he would do when I picked him and his mom, to make sure I knew how to transport and to make sure I knew what I was doing with hay and to make sure I knew how to market these animals and to make sure I could train somebody to mirror the practices. And if none of that would have been successful, I was getting out. Because if I can't scale it, there's no sense in me being here. If it makes no sense for me to stay here and as a business, not a hobby, if I can't get somebody else going.
Wow.
So I knew I could do it because I had done it. And I was like, okay, yeah, look, I remember one day Charmaine was like, why do you have so much money in your checking account? And I was like, I don't even use my work check because I'm selling meat everywhere I go. Like, I mean, my family hated going with me anywhere because they were like, I'd always be like, y'all want to get something to eat? They'd be like, no, you just want to go in a restaurant and sell these people meat. And I'm like, so what do you care? This is what we do. We sell in everything we do. And I accepted that motto and I sold in so I was selling you my principles and my practices.
Yeah. And look, and it worked, hook, line, and sinker, right? So I proudly tell people that I am a product of Swanson family farmer Wayne Swanson. Like what you see me doing that's my university. Like
and what I text you the other day?
Oh, you finding my niche?
I was like, man, brother, you found your sweet spot.
I found my sweet spot.
You take what somebody gave you, their blueprint, and if you're going to be successful, it should not look like what I did. You start off, it's like, say I'm an author and you're just getting started, and I'll write you a couple of lines to get you started. Here, let me write these for you. But the rest of the story has to be yours. And what you did was you made your story. So your Faith Farms, although it started out as a cow-calf operation or a cow meat operation, it has completely morphed. But all of the principles, the building blocks are still the same.
Wayne, I started and Wayne is talking about how we transitioned to horses. And I have 4 people on my property now who 3 months ago knew nothing about horses, own horses, and are with the horses every day. And they keep saying, like, man, I can't believe. I said, well, I gave you the same pill that Wayne gave me. Okay. If you want, let me show you how to do it. I'm going to take you to buy a horse. I'm going to get the horse for you from my source. You can use my truck and my trailer. I'm going to bring the horse here. If you're serious, then you should be here every day with me. If you're not.
And the understanding is, as a good student, you need to understand I'm going to benefit first.
Yep.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
I've laid out these resources. And I think I may even said that to y'all. Look, I done spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this place.
Yeah.
I need to make something back. But in the meantime, I guarantee if you stick with it, and I think I told you, I said, no disrespect to anybody, it's going to be days where it's just going to be me and you. Or it's just going to be me, you, and our sons.
Yeah. Oh, look, I can remember that day, right? So you call and you say, hey, you might have said it to I don't remember, but you was like, hey, Pat, a tree is down. And okay. So I tell Si, I say, hey, Uncle Chip called, tree down. So we hop in. I don't have no truck. I hop in the bins. We put on our little camouflage. Because it was cold.
Yeah, it was cold.
Come out there, we cutting the tree and just cutting. And he kind of turned to me like, but at that moment, and this is what I share with people, you taught me so many principles, and you still teach me principles. But that was before we purchased our farm.
Well, why did I do that? Do you remember why? Yes. I asked you, I said, the first thing you got to do is you got to learn how to do fences.
Yeah, got to learn.
Then we got to learn how to manage grass. Then from managing grass, then we got to learn how to market, how to find these markets and go to these markets. But yeah, that was so that when you bought your farm, and my favorite saying is, you don't need to step in all the landmines out and already hit. Absolutely. Let's find some new stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's make sure that you don't make the mistakes I made and you can build. So we took what took me 8 years to do. Yep. You did it in what, 2?
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe
2.
Like, I mean, to outsiders, you look like you were rolling the day after you purchased the farm.
Yeah. And one of in that purchase, one of the selling points for Ishtar was you and having your support, but you encouraged me to get something that I knew I could do with a little of my family help. Don't
Yes.
purchase counting on 50 other people to be there and 10 people to be there in the morning when you wake up. Like, if you're going to do this, you need to know that you are going to do this. And when your wife and your children help, that's a plus. But don't start
Yes.
for the the help coming from outside, basically.
So that's the insurance claims manager in me
Mm,
is setting up the systems in place so that the work works for you.
mm,
So I don't need to go and manage my cows. I trained and I'm a hobby dog trainer. So that was like, so I trained my first 3 cows like dogs.
mm, mm-hmm.
So once they responded to everything, any cow I bought on or any animal I bought on, they trained them for me. So they knew Sunday I'm not coming out there. They also knew that when I came and touched that gate, it's time for you to move to this next paddock, move. So we got to the point, and you do it very well, that I can stand in my driveway and yell. And based on the day or the commitment that I put in, how
Yep,
consistent I was, my cows knew whether to go left or
yep,
go right. And all I had to do was stand there and yell for
yep, yep.
them. And you do that too.
I bear witness, brother. People start saying like, "Man, you got to get that out." It's the time that you spend with the animals, and so I want to shift into that same time and then the quality of meat that has been produced at the farm. So tell us a little bit about um, how you decided that, it was time to begin to process, and then what do you look for in a finished product?
Okay. One, this process is all about the grass. It's all about the forage. I shouldn't say grass. That's a bit misleading. It's all about the forage. And I've said this year that I was going to make sure that we use correct terminology. So when you look at a pasture, you're not looking at grass, you're looking at forage. So we graze not only the woods, because the cows that I use as the foundation are cows that God selected to be this way. They weren't improved animals. So what that means is those cows that you see right there on the screen are Iberian or North African in heritage and lineage. They came over on boats from the Canary Islands and from the Iberian Peninsula with Columbus and other people, and were dropped off in the Caribbean, Mexico, and South America. When they went east, they became Georgia piney woods in the pine wood belts of America. When they went west, they became Texas longhorns. And when they stayed south in Florida, they got speckled skin, speckled fur, so they could um, push off all the sun rays. And they
Mhm.
became a cow called a Florida cracker. So when I read about them, I realized that those were the easiest cows for me to get. One, they were small. A bull might be 1,000, 1,200 pounds. Two, they were very hardy and very forgiving.
Mhm.
So as I started to understand Carcass, we look for an animal with short legs, because at the processor you are charged by the pound,
Mhm.
and any anatomy student, the largest muscle or bone on your body is a femur. That's the heaviest bone in your body. So we want short legs, less femur. We want a nice round carcass. Think about a Coke bottle. We want her to be shapely. We want her to have shape.
Mhm.
And I look to take them at about 800 pounds. I know most people want to do 12 to 1,000 pounds. 800 pounds. Most of the people that I service don't have deep freezers anymore.
Come on.
So they need a smaller carcass. And with an 800-pound animal, it's just coming off of nursing. So its flesh is very clean. And I'm grazing everything. I don't feed them any filler. We'll do a sweet feed or percent feed. Um, but if it's something that I'm doing if I'm something that I'm doing for meat, it's forage in, forage out.
Mhm.
So then with my carcass, once you take the hide off of the animal, I'm expecting to see yellow fat.
Mhm.
If I don't see yellow fat, somebody was in there feeding my animals,
Mhm.
because just using your primary colors. You see that color in the fat in those pictures? The
Mhm.
fat isn't white. The fat should have a color to it. It should have a tint. Be like, if in the summertime it's going to be very yellow, in the wintertime it's going to have more like a brownish tint. Like I could tell right there, that's a winter picture. It's got like a brownish tint, but the meat is very red.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the yellow fat is it. If you don't buy from me, if you don't buy from Patrick, you should be looking for yellow fat. That is an indicator that the animal has been raised on grass. If the fat is white, like paper, ditto paper white, that animal has eaten corn. The yellow color from the corn gets diluted and turns white. Grass is green, it gets diluted in the system and turns fat to green. So that's what we look for. And it's really that simple
Wow.
or
So,
intricate. Depends on which way you go.
I know your website, Swanson. Tell me, just in the meat business, like how much you sell a cow for, and
Sure. I sell a cow for $3,000. That's the processing included. You pick it up on the farm. Half a cow is 1,500, and I think a quarter cow is 625. So I have two butchers that I use now. I'm probably one of the only. I may not even just be black farmers anymore that has dates. Like I've been working on relationships for years. So I can go to the butcher. Most people have to wait till 2022 because of COVID. So yeah, so if you call us, I'm an artist with this. I go look at the carcasses. I don't care if the butcher is 4 hours away. This family is spending thousands of dollars with me for a whole cow. I want to make sure it's right. So until I'm comfortable with that butcher, I'm showing up doing spot inspections.
mm-hmm.
And you see some of those pictures of me looking at a meat and walking through coolers, and Pat will tell you there was a time he and I would go places and they would say stuff like we didn't know what we were talking about, and I'm not a scary guy,
No.
so I'd be like, and most of the time I found out I know more about their business than they do. They can cut meat,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't understand what happens when you have an animal with a higher beta carotene intake count. They didn't understand that. So they would be like, well, why do we need to hang it for 30 days? And then we met a guy who, he ended up kicking us out, but that ended up helping us.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one who taught me about the how long to hang meat.
Right.
And so, we hadn't looked back.
So speaking of some scary moments,
Uh,
do you remember the lightning situation?
yeah, that is one. Like when I do speaking gigs,
Mm-hmm.
that is the story that I tell. Like, how you got friends. Like I'm scarred up a little bit. I'm from Jersey. I lived through the '80s. There's some things I've done that I lived through with people that are my brothers. I had never, in all the getting shot at and getting in fights, I ain't never been struck by lightning. Me and this brother got struck by lightning and couldn't panic because our kids were with us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We had to make sure everybody was, but it was the craziest thing. Yeah, we were working the fence and it started to rain, and I was like, oh man, we got to get off the pasture because lightning will probably hit the pasture. So we were putting the animals up, we're getting the kids up. I think we had just gotten the boys in the barn to kind of see if we could wait out the storm. And lightning started striking near us, and I realized, oh my goodness, every one of my gates is aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
So that means everything's gonna get charged up. We got to get out of here. And we make a run for it, trying to get to this gate. Lightning struck the back of the property,
Yep.
but it hit the fence, and we could hear it sizzle.
Yep.
All the way up. And Pat was grabbing a boulder, like a small rock, to put in front of the fence so we didn't have to touch the fence. Lightning came up, the static energy came out of the ground, surrounded the rock, surrounded Pat's hand, and all I could think to tell him was to jump. I was like, jump, yelled, jump. And Pat jumped, dropped the rock and jumped. And then this big sonic boom just hit, like, boom. And, at that point, if you didn't know God was real, you did then.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We looked for the children. The kids were the boys were like shook. We were shook, but we had that glance like, all right, get it together, brother.
Yeah.
When we turn around, these boys cannot see fear in our face. And so yeah, man, that happened
Right.
on the Swanson family farm. And that for me was outside of you just being a solid guy, man, and your spirit was always right, that bonded me forever. That was it. I mean, that situation for me, it was like, Pat's my guy.
So look, I'm headed home, and I'm telling Cy, like, don't tell mom. No way we can go back to tell mom, right? So calling me, you're trying to check, make sure I'm good. I'm like, man, Chip ain't never called me 20 times on the way home. So you're calling. And so as you were calling me, then
It hit me.
yeah, it hit like
It hit me like, oh my God.
yeah, like that was real. And I could probably for about a day or so, or maybe longer, I could feel like the energy, like the tingle, right? So we get to the house. Side beats me in the door. Before I get in the house, he's like, Mama, my lightning. Oh,
yeah.
those moments, I think that really, I mean, like I said, our relationship was already solid. But when you go through a near-death experience with a brother, it kind of cements it a little more, right?
Yeah.
And that was one. So tell me, man, at some point, you call me, and then maybe like 3 weeks later, I call you because both of us quit our jobs.
Yeah.
So
I quit.
but to have enough confidence in this, yeah, it was a hobby. Then we started making money, and now, like, this is what.
Is this a show I can be completely honest on?
Oh,
No bad words or anything, but so I was as I've gotten older, I'm comfortable saying this. Before I wouldn't have said it because it would have sounded cocky. I was very good at what I did. Very good at managing talent, training talent, and handling customers. Leadership was a key thing for me. So I studied, lived, ate, sleep, and breathed leadership, people management. And they brought in a guy, white guy from the Carolinas who was supposed to be the second coming. And I knew he wasn't because they sent me to his team. So I realized that I was the cover. And in some ways, I'm okay with it. We would call that the golden handcuffs. They're paying me, I get these bonuses. And when I walked in to say hello to him, he was like, "Hey, man, we got to send our first meeting. Can you tell me how to send out an Outlook invitation?" And I was like, "Well, you've been with the company how long, bro? And you don't know how to send out?" Well, I never had to send meetings before. I say, "Well, how do you get a director role if you hadn't even been a leader?"
Wow.
And now you're a director. So I didn't say anything. First day of the meeting, the guy tells an X-rated joke, and it's a bunch of ladies in there, and I just was like, okay, this ain't going nowhere. So I transferred. A new brother had just come in. He was a director in another group. So I was like, if we're gonna play this game, I'm gonna make sure this brother is great. I'm gonna move. So I went to him, and we kicked butt. We took that department from a D to a B minus in under a year. And they started hiring more managers that didn't look like us. And my entire team was an exceeds expectations team. They started taking my high performers and putting them on these guys' team. You can build a new team. I said, no, I don't want to build a new team. And then when they hit me with the you ain't a team player, I told them, I said, you know what? I can feed myself. And my mortgage is only this. I can crush cans or get a part-time at McDonald's. I don't, y'all decide. I don't need to be here. And I can go, I got the farm. I wasn't living on the farm then. I was still living in my other house. I was like, I can go to this farm and, I'm good. So that made me get to the point of not having the fear of loss because I knew I could feed everybody. And then one day, like I said, my wife was like, yeah, you got a lot of money in your account. And I was like, well, man, I'm selling meat constantly. And I had a litter of puppies. So I gave her the plan. I said, just give me a year. And I resigned from my leadership role and took an individual contributor's role. And then God was like, watch this. And they were like, hey, you're going to have to work from home, but we can't change your salary. And I was like, oh, how about that? So I immediately told my wife, I said, we moving to the farm. Wow. I said, they gave me a territory that's the tip of it is the old neighborhood, but the bulk of it is smack dab where the farm is.
Wow. Wow.
So then I did that for a year, and then I resigned from there. Then I went to work for a small mom and pop company for another year, just to keep that check coming. So I had to wean myself off the check,
Mm,
because when you are getting that check every 2 weeks, even when you think you're saving, you are wasting the amount of money. If I got a check like I now, like I did 10 years ago,
hmm
consistently from somebody else from that little bit of work I was doing then,
hmm
I probably would be sitting on a couple $100,000
Right.
just off of that check. So that led me to, then it got to the point I left, and I told my wife, I said, it's something I got to do. Nothing was going right at that last year, because it was, I liken the experience to Noah in the ark.
hmm
It was on me to farm. And if I wasn't farming, nothing else was going well. Everything else was in shambles. The only thing that worked well was farming. And as hard as I tried, like, this is just a hobby. This is just a hobby. God was like, nah, bro, this is not a hobby. There's more to this than money. Is more to this than meat.
hmm
And I'm gonna need you to step out on faith. And so that I did, and it went so well. It pretty much caved in on itself the first year.
hmm
Yeah, I just wasn't ready.
So, if you say in the time form, what have been some of your great successes, and then the opportunities of failing forward? Uh,
The great success is, I think, meeting you and other people and being able to replicate the system, because now that led to, like, there's another paycheck for me in consulting. So now I do a lot of consulting with people, and I'm like, yeah, you need to call Patrick.
hmm
And people will be like, well, how do I know you can do what you do? I said, well, here, call these people and ask them. I said, call me when you're ready. I have a farm that works. I have people who have farms that work.
hmm
I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not doing this to floss.
hmm
So I'm not one of those people who say they have something and then call a guy like me to fix it for
hmm
the grant. No, I really haven't. The fail forward was learning. I'm a bit of an optimist. So there was a period where I thought that if I was talking tomatoes and hogs and all that stuff, that the system would accept me.
mm
And I learned the hard way that, I'm still black in America, and there's nothing that riles certain people. Now, I have some phenomenal white partners, but there are certain people who, when they see you get something that they think they should have,
hmm
and even if they hadn't put the work in, even if they're not even in that arena, they just feel some kind of way that you shouldn't have it. And you and I talk about all the time. We're like, oh, ain't going back there. They're gonna do something to us, or what they do? They pulled out, one of them pulled out the Trump stuff on us.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Just little stuff like that. So I failed there because I thought that I was, with my good work, my good deeds. And I think we what 6 months, 7 months, no processing, no money coming in, really, because the butcher kicked us out because the people, I think it was I'm not gonna say their name, a big burger company.
Right. Right. And
We were we were hitting them in the pockets.
right.
We were selling too much ground beef around Atlanta.
Yeah.
Um, and they were like, yeah, look, now we got to get y'all out of. So that was the biggest fail.
Yeah. So, one of the so tell me about, because one of the gifts that I got when I transitioned to Bioform was this little brindle looking person named Quinn.
Yeah.
So tell me about, Queen and the Pressa Canarian, and just that whole combination of finding, because as you finish it, there's a piece I want to talk about
Yeah.
with those. So tell me about the just the
It
dog and the form and that kind of combination.
complete. So I've been a dog guy my whole life. Um, but the Pressa, and let me make sure that I'm being clear to anybody listening to me. A Pressa Canario is not a farm guard dog. Not. A Cane Corso is not a farm guard dog. A Rottweiler is not a farm guard dog. I fell onto a Presa Canario that had old world lines. And by lines, we mean genetics.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
this dog wouldn't fetch. I thought that was odd at first. The dog wouldn't chase stuff. I thought that was odd at first. And then I learned after reading that the Presa Canario was originally a guard dog for farms. So
Mm.
if you're a farm guard dog, you can't chase balls because you'll chase baby whatever that's on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So Gitana was my first dog, and that happened by accident. I got some chickens, and I called the guy fussing. I was like, "Man, you sold me a dud dog," because I was in the bite work and all that stuff. And he promised me, "No, this is old world. This is De Los Cardones from Gran Tenerife." And I bought 4 chickens home. That dog was about 6 months old. She saw those chickens. She walked around them 3 or 4 times, laid down. Anybody that came near my yard, they was gonna get their leg bit off.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I see that. She's herding and she's guarding. I said, we're gonna start working with that. So I got more chickens,
Mm.
and it just grew from there. And then when I bought her to the farm, literally it was 30 acres of wilderness, her and the chickens for 60 days by themselves. I would come out here, just pop in, feed everybody, check on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I took her home one day because I was going to breed her. That night, all 6 of my chickens were killed.
Mm.
She dug them up.
Wow.
Dug them up and moved them where she wanted them to be.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. So it took Sir's, we get to talk about Sir, but Queen was the third or fourth generation of those dogs. Queen had a real laid back personality. I kept her sister Chrissy, who would herd like a border collie. But she had a wound because her mom was really aggressive, so she ended up having epilepsy. But without those dogs, I don't know because I just didn't know enough. I would have got wiped out. Yeah, I called a farming tithe, but they took all my money.
Right.
They took everything because I was doing everything wrong, and the dog was correcting me. The dog was like, "Yeah, no, don't put the sheep over here by the bush. Something's in the bush is gonna come out the bush and eat the sheep. Move them to the middle of the pasture." And the sheep would get comfortable, and I settled down. I'd be like, "Okay, there's something to this. This dog is teaching me."
Mm.
And I had a litter of piglets, and they got out and took off, and the dog caught them all one by one. But she didn't hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
and she was growling at them. She put them back in the little thing, like put them in their area, and growled at everybody. And I was like, okay, now I know. So without them, like Maestro has cornered me a time or two, and my dogs have had to rescue me.
So
Yeah.
in that, right? So I end up getting Queen. Queen comes to my farm, and she's my first animal on the farm. Then the cows come, and just like you're saying, she's teaching me and becomes my best friend. On those first nights where it's like it's no lights out here.
Mm-hmm.
Queen right there. So fast forward, we get us a male presser, and hey, I'm doing what my mentor does. I'm a breed presser. So we have our first litter, and out of genuine love, the way you loved and blessed us, we bring you a puppy, and we name King and Queen's puppy Sir. So I have a little video of Sir, and then I'll let you tell me a little bit about Sir.
Yeah.
Check out Sir working at.
Good boy. I gotta do some work. Move him up. Good. Good boy. Here. Good boy. Thank you. Thank you. Good boy.
Tell me what just happened in that clip, and we can run it back while you're talking. But tell me what happened in this clip.
So I was broke,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't buy feed, and we overgrazed the pasture that year. So there was no grass in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
And like dogs, cows get ticked off. Maestro was hungry. I had 7 or 8 bales of hay in the barn, and it rained and froze, and he's a little bit spoiled because he used to be able to go in there and I would put hay in the loft. But I had just started with some, I think it was baby pigs or something. So I didn't have him let him go inside. He wouldn't let me leave. I called the house because Sir is in the house. And my house is up there. If you look to the left, and if you watch, if you run it back, you can see Maestro hear the gate open. He hears the gate open. The sheep get chased out from the front paddock. And Sir looked at me as he's running, looks at Maestro, and he gives me the look like, I got it. I know what's going on. And all I said, as he's coming up, I said, man, I got to do some work, move him up. And I was videoing because I was expecting him to come hop the fence because he usually hopped the fence. So I'm videoing straight on. I'm not thinking he's coming from my right. And man, he moved him, and it scared me for a second because on the other side of that hay, there were 2 newborn calves. And I didn't know he had an off switch. So he did exactly what was needed. If you look at the video, the bull punches him in the head and dazes him. And then he cuts it off. Once he gets, boom, right there, hit him in the head. And then once he realized he got him out my way, he stopped. Didn't bother nobody else, came to me.
Wow.
And right there, me and him, that was it. Like for me, I was done. And he saved me with a pig. He saved me with this new bull. He saved me one time when the ram was about to, get me. And he gets in there. I mean, he has done phenomenal. He even saved my son one time. My neighbor's dog jumped on the fence and tried to bite Jakai. And Sir went over that fence. And like he could have really hurt the dog. But it was liking it to the Ali fight where the guy kept calling him Cassius. And Ali was hitting him and was saying, "What's my name?" Sir just kept beating the dog. And just beating the dog. And the dog would give, and he'd walk away and turn around and get him again. And we didn't have no more problems out of that dog. I paid $400 to get the dog stitched up.
Right.
But other than that, man, he has been, him and Gitana, I have probably had 40. Queen would have been good. Chrissy would have been good. Nobody else.
Wow.
I couldn't leave anybody else outside. Like he was in the garage. It was cold. It was early. And he had been out all night. So I usually put him up during the day. And I called Charmaine and was like, hey, let the dog out because I'm stuck. And, I was, like I said, I was broke. I couldn't fix the tractor. I couldn't buy feed. So the only thing they had that winter was hay. That was it. And Sir came through and like a lifesaver, man. Then, like I said, and I tell this story, he passed away. And I'm tough, so I'm like, all right. So I build a fire. I send him out like a warrior, build a huge funeral pyre for him. And a week later, I'm in Tractor Supply buying dog food. And it hits me that I don't have to buy the big dog bag anymore. Man, I'm about doubled over crying.
You called mention jazz. So tell me about what do you think the farm has done? He's a millennial kid, mind full of technology all over the place. Tell me, what do you think the farm has done for the character of your son?
I think it allowed him to just be him. He's his own individual, and we're blessed to have the farm where he didn't have to live in a situation where he had to be cool. He doesn't have his dad's A-type personality. So there was a period where I was like, oh no, I don't want to, I'm make sure I'm steering my child the correct way. But being on the farm, it always was like a talking point for him, for other people. Other people always want to know about the farm. And at about 16, 17, it hit him. He was like, oh, okay, all right. So he started getting involved. Now he's my son, so everything ain't going
right.
It's dad and son, and he's a teenager, and I ain't off the throne. So and then one day he just was like, yeah, I'm gonna take this inventory. and he started counting the inventory. And my wife showed him how to do some spreadsheets, and I had to give it to him. And I gave it to him, and he did phenomenal with it. And it allowed me to take a job at a grocer, learning how they ran their meat department, so I
Mhm.
could steal ideas and build our stuff. So I only stayed there for 6 months, and then we stole a bunch of stuff. But yeah, he was phenomenal. I think he was even working with Cy on some stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so we just like, man, and we still use what he put in place before he went to college is what I still use to this day, and I tweak it. And every once in a while, I'll be like, hey man, go do the inventory. He'll look at me, but
One more experience that I want you to share is because you showed so many times, yes, the farm is there, but the entrepreneur
mm,
thing that you've done, and same like with me, we have to be able to adjust because you can't get stuck. I'm just selling vegetables. I think both of
yeah,
us go into farmers markets and we got meat. Our buddies got veggies. They sell that whole table, make $60. We have 4 customers, we made 300. Like so,
right,
so we knew it was something in the meat side, and
yes
then
sir.
the level with the farmer and the chef. Tell me about
Oh,
the
I
farmer.
forgot all about that. So this thing, this is what people need to understand from a farm. A post from somebody of influence can change how the masses buy product.
Mm,
So I got tired of the ebbs and flows that I couldn't control. So if Oprah said buy ribeye this week, I can't keep up. If I think we had a year and a half where the vegans were just killing us
mm-hmm.
and we couldn't sell anything because everybody was talking vegan, 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 but they weren't talking about us. We are not factory farms.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, I was like, look, man, I got with a chef and we started doing these little food demos and they started coming out well. And it was a way for me to showcase the product. And then somebody said, man, you should cater this event. I didn't know anything about it, but I wasn't going to say no. This is at the point where I realized, okay, the only way you make money is to hustle. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't say no. You say, I will figure it out and I'll be there and it will represent ourselves. So the Farmer and the Chef was a restaurant that we opened with a business partner, a chef, an executive chef, where we featured Swanson Family Farm products and products from other minority farmers in and around Metro Atlanta. It was very well received, did very well. The business model was good. Wrong neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a semi affluent neighborhood, but they had one or two people who wanted to always be the star. Farmer Wayne don't have the type of personality where I can cater to you if you're not nice.
Right.
I detest a bully.
Yep.
So the people I was dealing with were bullies. So I was like, look, this ain't my main bread, and I can move this somewhere else. So y'all decide. Otherwise, I'm gonna go. And I slowly but surely started to work its way down. Um, and we got out of there, but I still own the name and everything. But yeah, man, came out of that. I hadn't had debt for a while. I came out of that. I was able to close a restaurant and only walk away with about 20 grand in debt. And then I got that knocked out in a couple of months.
So tell me, what's the next 3 to 5 years? Or not?
Mm.
I know you. I know you better than that. What is the next 6 months to 1 year?
All right, so we've got a deal in the works right now. So we're gonna scale up. In order to do that, we're gonna sell the farm. We're gonna sell the farm. We're gonna move farming operations south. So I've got relationships with two very large cattle operations that do grass-fed operations. And one of them is going to allow me to put my Swanson family farm there. And I'm going to work with them on their breeding, their forage, and they're going to raise the Swanson family farm stock. I'm going to buy. They're going to be producers for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be a client of theirs, so they don't have to go off and sell product. They're going to sell it directly to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the next iteration. I have another butcher on. So Patrick and I have always talked about this. We are going to own our own butcher. We're going to put one up. We just need to monetize it. And I have this thing where I don't like owing people money.
Mhm.
So yes, I could go out and get a loan and get started, but I've seen this farming thing crash too often to know that you don't want to owe people money
Mhm.
unless you are making the kind of money that you can bank hundreds of thousands of dollars every year for that crash because it's coming. So I want to own everything so that when we sell this property, I have another home in DeKalb County. We'll rehab that home. I don't know if we're going to sell that property or not. But with all this moving comes me driving a lot more. So I then realized, well, hey, I'm only doing farm stuff now 2 days a week,
Mhm.
but I need a bigger truck to make these big hauls. So I'm going to get a dually, and now I'm going to do what they call hot shots.
Mhm.
So I'm started a trucking company. I think the name was confirmed. Swanson Family Farms, Swanson Family Farm Logistics and Hauling.
Mm.
So get a freezer truck so I can make my own deliveries. But the people that I go to the processors, they don't have, other farmers don't have delivery.
Yep.
So I'm gonna get a couple drivers and we will either take your stuff to the processor or you take it and then we'll take the freezer truck. Because now that if you don't have a freezer truck or freezers and a mobile meat license,
Yep.
you can't pick up from the processor.
Yep.
So one of the things that I have harped on, I call Pat every February 1st, is you get your mobile meat license. And one thing I'm proud of and not ashamed to say, like, between every great business operation, there's a little teeny crime. So
Mhm.
for a year, Pat was using my number. So I was like, yeah, don't even worry about it here. If you get pulled over or something, check, because they check you. Like the Georgia Department of Agriculture comes to my place on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that's what's next. So we're gonna have the hauling. We're probably gonna get back. We're gonna invest in another restaurant so we can have a landing spot for product, and we'll keep doing the Swanson Family Farm the way we've been doing.
Mhm. And then the last question, and then I'll share your websites and anything you have there right now. The last question that I would say ask is, what is something about Wayne Swanson and the Wayne Swanson brand that you wish people knew or understood?
Well, the thing that I wish people knew and understood the most is that I am very passionate, and I might be more passionate about your success than you are. But once you entertain Farmer Wayne or Wayne, and I decide I'm all in, I'm all in. And a lot of people are, you may be put off by that and say, oh, well, this guy just said this to me. And I will call you and be like, yeah, man, do you want to do this or not? Because you got my time invested. You've got all the people that I got back. So if you're not interested in doing it, I got somebody over here who will. Let's give this opportunity to somebody else. That doesn't mean we're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But if you're not ready to run at this point, where I am in my career now, and so if I call people and say I need this, people do it.
Yep. Yep.
So I can't have people around that are wishy-washy or that aren't sure. You got to be ready to roll. And it's at that point now where not everybody can get to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I get people that call me once or twice a week. Hey, I want to get Mr. Muhammad.
Nope. Nope.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
You haven't earned the right to call that brother because you want to ask him some questions. You really shouldn't even be calling me. You need to be hey, here's the consultant fee.
Yeah.
And once we got to that point that we were comfortable charging
Yeah.
for information,
Yeah.
the looky-loos, as we call them, went away, and it's serious people. So we building serious business relationships, and we can grow. But that's the one thing. The one thing I'm in it. I mean, this is it. This is me. This is who I am. I am wholly and entirely Swanson Family Farm, and all its subsidiaries and everything else that we do. So that's it. Other than that, man, I'm just I'm a loyal dude. I tell people all the time. The guy that I'm taking my cows to, he called me confused. He was like, I don't understand why you want to come all the way down to Americas for your cows. That's a long ride. I said, yeah, but when I met you, my skin didn't crawl.
Mm.
I said, there are people that are closer. There
Mm-hmm.
are people that probably would give me more,
Mm-hmm.
but my skin didn't crawl. My spirit told me this was it.
Yeah.
You were it. And I knew that I can leave my stuff and my animals in good hands. Because I have a genetic project. I've been working on these things for over a decade. We have bred our own line of cows. We have a distinct color, horn pattern, carcass pattern. We have bred our own. We call them little maestros. We got them all over.
Yes. So tell us, Wayne, where can people find you on social media?
Swanson Family Farm on all platforms. Swanson Family Farm LLC.com is the website. And all you have to do is just type in either Wayne Swanson in Google or Swanson Family Farm, and your boy's going to pull right up. We've put the work in to be at the top of the list.
Yeah, yeah. So, and man, brother, I love you, man. I
Love you too, man.
really do. And it's just an honor to have met you when I met you, and what you have done for our family, brother. Is
Man, it's a likewise, man. What you have done for my family and for me. Like I said, man, when this next thing closes, not sometimes I don't understand how big this is
right.
and what it means. And my wife kind of was like, yeah, she calms me down or peps me up, because in farming, literally we don't count our chickens till they hatched.
Mm.
So on paper, you're like, oh, wow, but I don't have a check.
Right.
So
it's and no one is more deserving the sacrifice, the sincerity, and the like.
oh yeah, I got the marriage counseling to prove it too.
Right. It's time you do that. It's time for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
So I do.
And I'm okay with that. There was a period in time where I may have been like, yeah, maybe not. No, now I'm like, yeah, no. Yeah.
Because what people don't see is that 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, or you hear a fence, or you hear that coyote yell, and you're like, and you get up, no matter rain, snow, you got to go out there and check on it. Those are those that, people can think they want to do it, but when you live it every day,
when your livelihood is at stake, like I lost my prize breeding ram today. I found him chewed up, and yeah, he gone. The genetics in Arnie. I mean, I got babies out of him, but two things on this. He's in the field dead, chewed up. But he was probably 400 pounds. So on the business side of it, yes, I'm very sad that he's dead, but this is a business. He was $1,500 worth of meat on his own. And I probably could have sold him for $2,500 to $3,000 just based on the babies that he produced and the fact that we produced him. He's never had any medicine, and he's dropping babies that don't need medicine.
Wow.
And they didn't cut down all the trees and the coyotes. But the crazy thing was, I knew the way he slept was a problem. Like you could walk right, you could step over him in his sleep. And I was like, yeah, that's gonna be a problem, bro. You can't sleep. You can't sleep like that. And it looked like he got caught in his sleep. And I found him one day. It's like,
Well, it's like I said, indeed an honor to have Swanson here with Swanson for this episode of Engine of the Nation. Fear and Truth of Farming. Just a little housekeeping. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in our comments. And you can follow us on NNV News on all social media. It's NNV News, all social media. If you are a farmer out there and you would like for us to interview you, please reach out to us by emailing at contact@NNV News. That's contact@NNV News. We do have a small commercial break from Your Faith Farms. We are authors here at Your Faith Farm, so we would like to share. We have a package going on right now. So we have one of our children's books, The Principal Farmer Has a Farm, right there. So you get the principal's book. You'll get Little Librarian Girl, that book. You'll get Mom, Where's My Dad, that book. You'll get Wear My Shoes, Please. And you'll get free our book to teach you how to write books. So you can go to yourfaithforms.com. That's yourfaithforms.com to see and get some of our products. And again, we'll thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts and comments. Please like, share, spread the word. And I have a surprise. Next week, we have a farmer all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. That's all I can give you right now. He's all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, and he's excited about what he's going to share with us about farming in 2020. Again, I'm Brother Patrick Muhammad with Engine of the Nation. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
The nation must acquire land. Production of food, clothing, and shelter. Freedom is independent agriculture. Farming is the engine of the nation.